Hello, everyone. We're live. Well, thank you, everyone who's watching, for joining us and jumping in on this panel. I'm really excited to have all of you ladies here just to chat really about your experiences and transitioning from the world of Web 2 to Web 3 and kind of how people that are curious about that space that maybe are looking like, okay, this is interesting. How do I get involved? What does this even look like? What does this mean? We are really going to dive into all of that and more. And so before we jump into really kind of like the main conversations here around that, why doesn't everyone just introduce themselves a little bit, say who you are and what you do here in the world of Web3. So we'll start with you, Chloe, because Swash, thank you, Swash, for hosting us for this great conversation. So anyway, Chloe, go ahead, take it away.
Sure, thank you so much. So I'm Chloe, I'm CMO at Swash, and as I'm sure many people watching already know, Swash is reimagining data ownership. We've basically got an app that enables people to take control of their data by joining a data union. And we have around 250,000 users currently. So it's been going well. I personally, I've been in the crypto space since around 2015, but working in it since like 2017. So obviously seen quite a lot over the years, and it's been fun as well. And I think obviously part of this conversation is like, you know, making that transition into Web3. And part of that that's been good over the years is seeing how many more women have actually entered the space since, since the beginning. So yeah.
Awesome. Who wants to go next?
I can go next.
Zara, you're next.
I'm
on
usually
the screen.
Hi, everyone. I'm Zara, and I work with Chromaway as Chief Solution Officer. And Chromaway is a Nordic leading blockchain company. Chromia is probably you might have heard of Chromia more than Chromaway. Chromia is our layer 1-2 blockchain protocol, and we are launching an NFT protocol called Originals soon as well. So that's a little bit about who I am. And we have at Chromaway, we have quite strong portfolio in gaming, and we have multiple successful games, Alice and Mice of Delarnia. And then we also have a quite strong portfolio in enterprise solutions in real estate tokenization and also DeFi. And now we're stepping into fashion tech, a quite exciting journey there. So that's a little bit about me.
And you've been in the industry for quite some time as well, haven't you, Zara?
Yeah, well, I've been in this space quite long, since the time that a lot of people thought this is a fraud industry. So you can imagine how long I've been in this industry, since around 2015. So.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, everyone. I'm Bridget Greenwood from the Bigger Pie. I was similar to Chloe. So in 2015, 2016, Bitcoin was mentioned to me, but I couldn't figure out how to get hold of it myself. Eventually, a friend of mine helped me with that and then said, hey, do you want to join my startup? So I came to work in the space in 2017. At the end of 2017, we saw this wonderful hockey stick rise of Bitcoin and other altcoins go up. Come 2018, we saw a slope down. So it's interesting being in the space, and then just in those times where people were less interested in the price, just watching people build in this sector and build in this industry. And then you all of a sudden we've got sectors here that have blown up in terms of DeFi, in terms of NFT, in terms of a whole bunch of different use cases, as Zara said, the different things that they're building on. And in that time, it's just been really fascinating to see how the technology's changed, how the roles have changed, how this sector is maturing. And we still need a whole bunch more women who are working in the space at senior levels, who are founders, who are developing, who are telling people what you've built, who are operational, financial, the whole width of that. So that's very much what the Bigger Pie is about. So having done the startup, I saw the power of this technology and really wanted to see more women in the space. So that's what we're doing, and we can get more into how we do that as we continue the conversation. And I get to meet all of these wonderful people as a result of it.
Okay, hello everyone. My name is Modupe. I live in Nigeria, and I think my journey, blockchain journey, is the youngest of everyone here. I got in 2018, and I started by trading cryptocurrencies. That was the beginning of the bull market, so it was really exciting in 2018. And then in 2020, I found out that there was a technology behind the currencies, and I was fascinated really, and I got more involved and tried to find out what else can I do with this technology. Now, so my background is in quality operations and compliance, and then I got involved in education as well. So when my first instinct was I need to teach people in my country, in my community, about this
Mm.
technology and the wonders that it can do. So that's where I started. So I started from training, capacity building, and I've always been passionate about increasing the impact of women everywhere and in everything. So I took that into blockchain as well and started training and mentoring women and girls in blockchain technology. So far, we've trained more than 300 girls between the ages of 14 and
Mm.
17, and then more adults as well. So it's been good because it gives them an opportunity to, work remotely, take charge of their own finances, understand technology, and then use it to their advantage as well. Apart from that, I'm co-founder of Ecolance. Ecolance is a training and a job platform for women and people generally from emerging countries. I work as the African lead for the Global Blockchain Women Alliance. Um, I'm also a cryptocurrency specialist, a compliance specialist, because compliance
Mm.
has always been somewhere in my roots. And I'm doing a lot with that right now. Yeah, so that's me.
I think what I love so much about this industry is we all come from such diverse backgrounds. Everyone has kind of found their own little niche and their
Yeah.
thing that they do here in the space, which I think is kind of a perfect representation of what we're going to be chatting about today with people that are, kind of on the outside looking and be like, okay, so I'm in this world of Web 2 and I'm very interested in this world of Web 3, but how do I get involved? And the answer really is that there isn't like one way. There's so many, crypto is for everyone. There's so many potential ways. Maybe someone wants to work in the industry. Maybe they want to invest. Maybe they want to use it as a way, kind of like you said, to educate the people around them on potential. And so like, there's just so many ways to get plugged in. And so just as kind of like an opening question for whoever wants to take this is like, what do you think are some of the biggest barriers to making that crossover? So let's say someone is interested in getting into the world of Web3. What, from your experience, just from your own journey, but also from like the people you talk to, the people you meet, like what do you guys think are just some of the biggest barriers? And then maybe that'll kind of like spark some things that we can discuss, from there.
Yeah.
One of the
I think. Oh,
Go
go for it, Modupe, go for it.
ahead.
I was going to say complexity. So my own experience has shown me that a lot of people think with the world of Web3 is complex. It's confusing, it's a web, really a web. How do we find our way through? And my solution to that line of thought has been then just learn more, get educated, find out more about what it is. Because if there are people there working in the space, then you can too. So my solution has been education, creating opportunities, educational inclusion, especially for people from my side of the world who may not be able to afford, like high class education in blockchain or something. But there's stuff online, there's information everywhere. So get educated and understand for yourself. So that's for me has been one of the biggest barriers that I've encountered.
I think to add to that as well, like complexity is like a really nice term to sum it up. I feel like for me from the beginning, part of the issue was about the idea of well, I found like the language and the jargon and also at the time there weren't many very sort of like real life use cases that you could refer to and dig into. It all felt very technical. It was quite hard to wrap your head around what these words meant. there are way more resources now, of course. I think what Modupe says, where, just dig in and, don't be afraid to, explore and see what else is actually out there. That's even easier to do these days. So I feel like that, I mean, for me personally, it was a big barrier just to feel like, to get over that feeling of, well, I'm not a technical person, so that's not for me. When it's like, no, actually everyone has a space here, exactly like you're saying, Lea.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Chloe on that. I am a person with a technical background myself, so I'm on the technical side, but that's exactly why I can totally understand what Chloe talks about. So I've been talking a lot about, the fact that a lot of us who were earlier in this space, we tend to make it complex. We liked to show this is a very complex technical
Robust.
philosophy, or is a technical complex technology that would shut down a lot of people that did not have technical understanding, and eventually would definitely affect. It did definitely affect mass adoption of a technology, because a technology will be only adopted when business leaders can understand it. I mean, it doesn't matter if a developer understands it or not. It's all about, if a business leader can understand it, and if a business leader can revolutionize their business with it, generate revenue, create jobs, and create an economy around the technology. That's when a technology can be adopted by mass. And a lot of us tend to create it so complex, and then eventually we realize that that's not going to work. We need to, as Modupe said, we need to create awareness. We need to educate. So I have been part of a lot of in my journey. I've been part of a lot of education and awareness for business leaders, and learning to communicate in a non-technical language, in a business language that people can understand it easier, and that they can relate to it. Because blockchain, but also for both men and women, blockchain I always say blockchain is not a technology, first of all, from my point of view. Blockchain is a philosophy, and it's an extremely gender diverse philosophy. Because if you're familiar with cultural theories and studies, Hofstede, which is the biggest cultural theorist of the history, he talks about masculine culture being very power and money oriented, and feminine culture being about caring and sharing and community. And blockchain is about democratizing power. So it's a very gender diverse philosophy. But because we were only speaking in a very tech harsh masculine language, so we didn't have really we didn't have many females in the space before, and also we couldn't communicate with business leaders. But now, throughout the time, people like Modupe joined the space, and they understood the gap, and now they're trying to fill that obstacle. But the obstacle still exists from my point of view. It's much better than when we were where we were in 2018 and 19, but it's still there. But we're improving, I would say.
100%. And to add on to that as well, when we talk about complexity, it's also the breadth of what you can learn, because I mean the industry now sort of has a finger in the pie of everywhere, and it moves so quickly. So even if you've been in the space for a number of years, you're never on top of everything that's going on. So how does someone who comes in go, well, where do I start? And I think that's one of the difficult things. So for me, that's why I think communities are really important. So you can find a community that will help direct you to resources, to, events like this, to other communities, to be able to develop your technical skills, if that's what you're looking for, or your marketing skills, if that's what you're looking for, or how as a content creator and an artist, because all of these things, you're sort of narrowing down your focus. So I think that's kind of the idea. If you're in Web 2 and you're thinking about coming into Web 3, there's a couple of things you can do. Is you can say, which of my skill sets are transferable that I can bring across? And also, where do I really want to be? Where do I, if I had blue sky thinking and I had no limits, where in the sector right now would I want to be spending my time? And then use those two things to help you find your journey into it.
I love that. I feel like a kind of common thread that everyone's touched on a little bit is this like idea of, yes, it may feel intimidating. It may feel like it's complex. It may feel technical, all these different things, but just getting started. And I think that, I don't know about you guys, I know I experience this sometimes, but there's this like little bit of you want to just like feel like you understand everything. And you're like, if I can't get it, it's like, feels like this, like you said, this overwhelming task, but just like being okay with those little baby steps of like, you know what, I'm just going to start. Cause it's pretty amazing how, like, if you can look back, 6 months from now, if this is something that, let's say someone's interested in and they really commit to just diving in a little bit at a time, just learning, watching more, like you said, more panels like this, more YouTube videos, jumping into communities, asking questions, they'll be just absolutely blown away where they are 6 months from now in terms of their level of understanding. It's almost like you decide to start learning Spanish and you just actually do those Rosetta Stone classes every day. 6 months from now, you'll be really shocked how much Spanish you actually have, right? And so Bridget, I loved your suggestion about communities, but in terms of other resources, like for those first baby steps, what do you guys kind of suggest for someone?
I have to jump in here and Lea, give you a shout out, because I think the type of content you create is sort of essential as a really welcoming, like entertaining, but also educational step. And I think that's key for, I actually was just thinking of your, when you did the kind of Harry Potter analogy of the crypto scene, and those kind of things really do help to start conversations. So yeah, I think that's, I just had to give you a shout out there because I think it's like one of the best ways in.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I know when people ask me what I do, I'm like, I don't know. I'm kind of a nerd on the internet and make weird videos.
Yeah. To add to that, talking about the leap from Web 2 to Web 3 and what would be those baby steps, I think the first thing we need to understand is what is Web 2 and what is Web 3, right? And then when we understand, okay, Web 3 is the idea of this decentralized internet based on blockchain technology, and then, okay, what is blockchain technology? Question yourself, challenge yourself to the very basic, and then try to challenge it. The leap from Web 2 to Web 3 is very much like migrating from a developing country to a first world country, I would say. Very much. So if you have physically migrated, I have, from a developing country to first world country. So, and actually 3 times in my life. So then you understand that. It's exactly how Bridget said. So you come with a whole set of skills that you learned it, and they're unique to you because you lived in a developing country and you've been challenged a lot. You've been working in a competitive market. So you have set a whole unique set of skills, and now you're brought into a developed country with a whole different set of opportunities now. How do I translate these skills to opportunities? And a lot of it is about, first of all, you have to understand what are those opportunities for you, for your business in Web3 space. And then you have to be very, the beauty about Web3 is that, it gives you freedom to dream as much as you can. And majority of Web3 businesses and products today are selling dreams. And that's why they're succeeding, because we are literally selling dreams, things that we wanted to happen in Web 2 and it didn't, right? To build a token-based economy, to build, to make it accessible to the whole world, to actually break the idea of first world and developing country, right? To be inclusive, to allow everyone do what they can and what they like to do. So you need to be creative about and understand the opportunities that Web3 brings to your business, and define them and understand them, and then but also take small steps, right? Because we keep hearing about all these hypes of this metaverse space and that metaverse game and that's a crazy launch or that NFT drop, and everyone wants to go really big. But just be transparent and, you know, honest yourself. Take a small step with whatever you understand the easiest. And we are all human, and we have cognitive capacity. Whatever that comes to you first, that you understand it easiest. If it's NFT, go with NFT. If it's a token, go with token. If you think you can, you know, have revolutionize, democratize the idea around your industry, go with the smart contract application. Whatever that allows you to live in that and start your journey. And don't aim too high. Start with very small, and then this space right now is the best time to enter the space, because it's not too small not to support you. There are enough support for you. It's not too big to get lost in it. So it's the best.
I love that.
To actually Web3 space today.
Mic drop. Boom.
Yes. So
innovation here.
So I do love, Zara, your suggestions that you can think big, but you can just take it in, you know, as we've said, in bite-sized pieces. And there are some fantastic, what I love about the Web3 space that I haven't seen elsewhere is that you can just dip your toe in the water, right? So you can just go and have a look at the Oasis Foundation and say, okay, I'm really interested in this particular protocol. There are, you know, lots of other protocols have these bounties or these ambassador programs. And so you can say, okay, as I'm learning about this protocol, I'm going to write some case studies on it. Okay. And so you can actually get paid in the token for doing so, because everyone else who's been speaking needs to be educated, needs to understand what's going on. And so the more that people come in and sort of explain that well. So now all of a sudden you're learning, then you're going to get paid in the tokens. Then you have to figure out, well, how do I receive the token? How do I download a wallet? How do I hold it? Do I just want to hold it? Or people are telling me there's other stuff that I can do with it. And then this learning doesn't just become, it becomes very tangible. It becomes very visceral. It's not just, you know, what's the word? When you're just educating, but you're never applying it.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, and I think that's such a good point, Bridget, about like how it's one thing to read, but when research becomes resistance, that's when you are just spending too much time just researching. And sometimes you just really have to jump in. And so I love that you brought up that there's opportunities to actually earn. It's not always even like your first step has to be buying crypto or buying an NFT. There's actually a lot of ways that you can be earning crypto. And then, like you said, once you actually have some in your hand, then it forces you to actually go through all the steps of figuring out about it. And nothing's going to make you learn about it more than when you actually have some money that you need to figure out what to do with, you know? Exactly. So that's such a perfect segue. I know we've talked a lot about education, but I would love to hear maybe even like more specifically from you guys, because I think you guys are, everyone in this room is very involved in the world of education, whether it's through actually creating educational materials or whether it's even just creating the user experience and how to make sure that that translates well. But what do you guys think that we really need to improve on kind of in general as an industry when it comes to either educational content or even just the way we explain things in like terms of user experience? Like where do you guys think that we really could improve or that we could be doing a better job of?
I mean, thinking from, like, if you think of the more like Web 2 side of the internet, like things like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, like which most people are using on a daily basis, everyone's used to things being literally like click, 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 done, even less if you're on Amazon. So it's very much like to have the patience to actually dig in and have to work out things and how you bridge this here. It can always be a little bit, you know, a lot of people just don't really have the patience. So, I mean, when you're a builder in the space, or you've got like Swash is an app, for example, or you've got a wallet, whatever it might be, I think there's just something like from those who are already operating in the Web3 space really need to think like, how is this going to come across to that more early majority audience? This is something we've been thinking about a lot as well. Like how do we make sure that not only is the, you know, like the onboarding process should be really streamlined, or tooltips and things just to explain what does it mean when you withdraw your Swash? What does it mean if you click this button, what happens? Because there's not really any guide anywhere for you to find out. And those small details, I think, are something that is being improved on slowly but surely. But I always think and the other side of that, of course, is with things like alt text and the kind of more inclusive way of using the internet and sort of integrating those things into like the online experience through whatever it is that you're building. So yeah, that just
in terms of education, I would like to add that it's I can bring on an example. Actually, I advise this startup that is basically taking the leap from Web 2 to Web 3. So what they're called NeoKey, and they are now they are a SaaS service provider in Web 2, and now they're taking the leap to provide a metaverse game in Web 3, and then there's a whole transition and they're working with brands and in interior design and brands and designers, and they have no other choice to basically educate their future users. So they spent like about 1.5 years going to meetings with all these brands, and it didn't work the way they wanted, and at the end they started creating education content and educating around how can Web3 potentially transform their business or their world, and what kind of opportunities and then also change the language to customized industry-based language. So it's extremely important for you to use customized language when you talk to healthcare. If you're in healthcare industry, you have a different language. You have to understand how to translate keywords of Web3 to your industry words properly. If you are in design industry, you have your own keywords. So you have to translate Web3 language to your own industry language. So it took them some time to realize that they have to do it. And since they've done that, it has been a much more successful journey. And now they don't even need to reach out to all these brands and designers. They are already they have hundreds of them coming to them on weekly basis. So to understand how to communicate and eventually add value by educating your community. And you don't necessarily need to call it educating. You just need to create that interest, because a lot of us are by default also, resistant to education. When it's called education, we think most of the time we think we already know everything. Part of my job is also education. I'm a university lecturer too. So yeah. So, but then when it's about adding value to them, when it's speaking, talking to people with their own language, is much really easier to communicate and also eventually educate indirectly. Plus, now the whole Web3 space is also challenging the idea of centralization in education. So a lot of this education is on you, on us. So the pace is really fast, that no matter how much I, as the business who's taking the lead, provide that, it doesn't work. It's still on you. It's still up to you yourself how much you want to get educated. And a lot of people reach out to me like, where do I find this? Where is the best source to get educated? I have zero answer to that question. I don't have an answer to that question. Google, YouTube, there's a lot of content out there. Which one is the best? The one that is the most recent, because this is every day. So if you go to a source that is like 6 months old, that's old. Don't go to that. Yeah. So go to the most recent, and it's all up to you. And there's a bunch of you. I get educated myself on YouTube. I mean, and books, no, because by the time they want to write the book and publish the books, it's outdated. There is a lot more happening in this.
The time, yeah. Speaking from a developer perspective, one of the things I've discovered is For a lot of developers, in my experience, from my experience, who were self-taught, have interestingly had a different kind of experience, because the feedback is, the companies that are supposed to hire them say they don't have experience. I'm thinking, where are they going to get experience from? They're self-taught. There's not enough. The jobs are plenty, but there's no opportunity to gain experience if you don't give them a chance. So I think another thing is maybe reducing a bit the barriers to entry, and understanding that many people are self-taught. There's not too much structure around. It's just like what Zara said, having structured education in this space is becoming a bit old. So that if I learn on my own and I'm self-taught, then someone has to give me an opportunity sometime to prove that I can do something. So maybe reducing those barriers to entry could make it easier for people to enter the Web3 space more.
I mean, also this is a decentralized culture and a decentralized ecosystem, where a lot of the people who, as we discussed, who first came into it were people who are coders and who are building on it. But if we want this to be, we're in danger of a lot of projects being built, but not businesses being formed. Even if you are a startup and you're experienced in the startup world, when you're going through that, your job is to grow, and build what you're doing. It's very difficult once you're doing that to also think about, well, what is my diversity and inclusion framework, which most companies haven't got right yet anyway. There's no blueprint out there. There's so much you need to pivot and change within any industry, let alone within this industry, that I think it's really important that, things like what Modupe is doing, what I'm doing, what you're doing as well, is being able to go out and say to these people, okay, we're going to help bring cohorts of people who need to be skilled in certain areas. We're going to be working with the ecosystem to say, right, we're going to place them with you, but because you're so busy building, let's just understand what the marketplace needs to continue the education, so we can support these people throughout, the placement and their acceleration through their career, through the company, or just being within the industry. So I like this idea of being able to absolutely do as much self-learning as you want, as much as, but also having cohorts. So you can learn asynchronistically, but then you can also come together and share your learnings and get questions and get support and be guided to your next steps. So that's one of the things. I know that Modupe and I are both sort of building those sorts of things, as are many others in the space. And the other thing that is really important when we're saying let's not make sure that we're just building projects, but businesses, is one thing that I haven't mentioned is I'm co-founder of the 200 Billion Club, which is about getting female founders in Web3 now as well, funded. So female founders globally, pre-pandemic, got less than 3% of all VC funding. The rest, 8% went to mixed team, and the rest go to all male teams, like 3%. Post-pandemic, that is now below 2%.
Wow.
And unless we want to see all of these fantastic businesses built out, we need to invest in our female founders. So having sort of built up 50 VC equity partners in the traditional space, as it were, we're now doing the same for the Web3 cohort. So it's making sure that when you're coming in, you do understand, what you need to do to put together a really good pitch, what your tokenomics are, the difference in community building and how important that is in Web3, and being matched to the right sort of talent as you grow that startup. So those are the things that we think are important. That's where we're focusing our energies.
So if someone, I imagine we'll have some female founders watching this. What's the website for them to go to check that out?
It's the 200bn.club.
Perfect.
And there's, under the founders, you can apply there. So thanks very much for that, Check.
Yeah, of course. Well, ladies, this has been such a fun conversation. Thank you all so much for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and just like have this really rich conversation. I think that conversations like this are so important because there are so many people that are wanting to transition into the world of Web3 and start dipping their toe in, but they're not really sure how. And so I hope that if anyone's watching this, hopefully they leave this feeling inspired to at least take that baby step, that next step to learn or to join a community or to look into things. And so just to kind of wrap up, if someone's watching this and they want to connect with you guys and, kind of keep following you and the projects that you work with, let's just kind of go around and say like maybe where people can find you guys coming out of this panel. So Chloe, you can start.
Okay. So you're welcome to reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. It's basically Chloe_Diamond or _ Diamond, depending on where you find me. Also Telegram. And then for Swash, you can reach out to us directly through the website, just swashapp.io. And also we have an official Telegram page as well. So always happy to have any conversations, like answer any questions people might have. So yeah, thank you so much.
You can always reach out to me as well on LinkedIn or write an email, zara.zamani@chromaway.com, Telegram or Twitter, and with @disruptive force, because that's at least what I thought I was some time ago.
Love it.
You are a disruptive force. You are a massively disruptive force, and that force is good, Zara.
I've been challenging myself whether I should change that, and I'm like, no, Zara.
No.
You have no to
that. So you can find me at thebiggerpie.io. That's the website for The Bigger Pie. We've got a whole bunch of resources there. You'll find where you can join the community and sort of email addresses. That's the best place to find us. And as you say, if you're a founder or if you're a VC, crypto VC, and you're looking to find more sort of great startups, then it's the 200bn.club. So thank you.
Perfect.
So yeah, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn as well, Modupe Ativie. That's my name. So you find me on LinkedIn that way, or you can reach me by email as well. It's modupe.ativie@ecolance.io. Ecolance is EKOLANCE. So ecolance.io. Anyway.
Perfect. Well, thank you again, everyone, so much for taking the time to be part of this panel. And thank you, everyone who has watched, for joining us, and everyone that's been active in the chat. We really appreciate you guys being here. And thank you again, Swash, for hosting us. This has been really a lot of fun.
Lea, where can people find your podcast and your resources?
Oh, yes. Okay. So GirlGoneCrypto online. I pretty active on Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, making a mix of educational and kind of, I don't know, more like meme style funny, little videos too. So if you want that kind of like Chloe, you were saying earlier, really entry level, like I do a lot of kind of 2-minute explainers, just little 60-second videos covering different things. Feel free to find me there. If you just Google GirlGoneCrypto, the handles are a little different everywhere, so I won't spell them all out, but just Google that and you'll find me. So.
And thank you so much for moderating. It's been a really fun conversation, and thanks again to everyone
Swash for hosting this.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for being here.
All right, bye everyone. Have a good one.
Bye. Bye. Take care.